Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise for the arrival of the Honorable Senate President and the Senators of the Republic of the Philippines.
The 17th session of the Senate in the third regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. The President Pro Temp, Senator Ralph Recto, will lead the chamber in prayer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Almighty God, as we gather here today, make each one of us an instrument of peace, a force for good, and the creator of noble deeds. When food is scarce and their prices high, help us find the root of all evils and lead us not into the temptation of importing what we eat as the only solution. When clemency long enjoyed is threatened by revocation, kindly bring those who seek it back to the moral, just, and legal road. When fake news fuels ignorance, give us the courage to stand up for the truth, make us beacons of enlightenment, and help us roll back the harm inflicted by manufactured opinion. When inflation robs our people of the full value of their wages, remind us that inflation is unlegislated taxation, so we may not tire in finding ways of taming it. When a typhoon looms over the horizon, join us in keeping our people safe and restrain us from whipping up political storms, so we may not squander our energies on distractions which are petty. When we write laws, prod us to be conscious of the cost of the campaign promises we redeem, because while we get credit for the laws we pass, it is the taxpayers who must raise the cash to implement them. As we do this, we implore that you guide us to write laws that will serve the generations that will come after us, and not the elections that will come next. To seek the acceptance of an idea through the strength of its merits and not through the sheer number of its proponents. To use us benchmarks of our labor, the sound policies we create, and not the sound bites we make. And to always reach to our colleagues across the aisle, because policies forged in the anvil of shared values are more durable than ones which are products of narrow partisanship. We beseech you, Lord, to guide us with your wisdom and solidarity during these interesting times. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. The Rondonian Camerata will lead us in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, and then the group will also render a song entitled Isang Dugo, Isang Lahi, Isang Musika.
Sa dagat at puno sa simoy at sa langit kung
The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader?
Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 16th session, Wednesday, September 5, 2018, and consider the same as approved. So moved.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we move to the reference of business, we'd just like to greet the guests of Senator Bam. We have with us today the Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, together with their group, Head of the National Space Development Program, Dr. Rohel Marie Sesi, and the other members of the DOST. Your Honor.
We'd like to welcome our guests to the Senate. Thank you.
We'll just submit, there's a long list here, Mr. President. I will just submit to the Secretariat all the names. We also have guests of Senator Lauren Legarda of the GSC, Colonel Ronnie Betinglay of Philippine Air Force, and Lieutenant Colonel Marvin Suficiencia, together with the Philippine researchers of Air Force Strategy Management Office. They are guests of Senator Legarda. Mr. President.
Welcome to the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we proceed. Before we proceed to the reference of business, I'd like to just request the members to stay for third reading. We have several bills to be read on third reading today. But before that, I would like to, or with the permission of the body, move that we proceed with the reference of business.
If
You want to proceed, Mr. President?
may
on
we
third reading?
suggest instead that the chair would like to receive a motion calling for the third readings before the
Okay, Mr. President, we shall do that.
reference of business.
We'll just tackle the resolution after the reference of business. Mr. President, I move that we vote on third reading, if all members are ready. I move that we vote on third reading, Senate Bill number, may I request the Sergeant Arms to ask if Senator Manny Pacquiao is here with us? There he is, okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make sure that he was here when we approved the third reading of his measure, Mr. President. I move that we vote on third reading, Senate Bill number 1306 under committee. I so move, Mr. President. I'd like to also put on record before you answer the motion that all of these measures have complied with the 3-day rule of the Constitution. So I would like to go back to my previous motion, Mr. President. I move to approve or vote on third reading, Senate Bill number 1306.
Any objection? There being none, Senate Bill 1306 will be approved for third reading. May we ask Secretary to read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
Senate Bill number 1306, an act creating the Philippine Boxing and Combat Sports Commission and providing funds therefor. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstentions, Senate Bill 1306 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Manny, magsalita ka. Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations are in order for the sponsor, Senator Manny Pacquiao, for his Boxing Combat Sports Commission. Mr. President, I move that we vote on third reading House Bill number 5173. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. The Senate Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill Number 5173, an act declaring September 17 of every year a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Los Baños, province of Laguna, in commemoration of its founding anniversary and the annual Bañamos Festival. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 5173 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move that we vote on third reading House Bill number 5552. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, consideration for third reading of House Bill 5552 is in order. The Secretary will read the title and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill Number 5552, an act declaring April 3 of every year a special non-working holiday in the province of Albay, including the cities therein, in commemoration of its founding anniversary to be known as Albay Day. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 5552 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, we move to resume consideration of House Bill number 622. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is to consider.
Yes, Mr. President, we move to vote on third reading the same measure, Mr. President. We so move.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill Number 622, an act declaring March 24 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Ligao, province of Albay, in commemoration of its founding anniversary. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 622 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 5566. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we vote on third reading House Bill number 566, and we'd like to also say that printed
5566.
copies were distributed to the senators on September 4, complying with the 3-day rule of the Constitution.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill Number 5566, an act declaring November 2 of every year a special non-working holiday in the province of Misamis Occidental in commemoration of its founding anniversary to be known as Araw ng Misamis Occidental. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 5566 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, we move to resume consideration of House Bill number 5689. I so move, Mr. President.
5689. Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators last September 6, complying with the 3-day rule of the Constitution. We now ready to vote on third reading. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill Number 5689, an act declaring August 2 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Butuan, province of Agusan del Norte, in commemoration of its Charter Day anniversary to be known as the Adlaw Hong Butuan. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 5689 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, move to resume consideration on House Bill number 6689. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators September 6, 2018. Therefore, complying with the three-day rule of the Constitution, we are now ready to vote on third reading. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill number 6689, an act declaring June 17 of every year a special non-working holiday in the province of Agusan del Sur in commemoration of its founding anniversary. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 6689 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, we move to resume consideration on House Bill number 5258. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators on September 6, 2018. Therefore, complying with the three-day rule of the Constitution, I move that we vote on third reading House Bill number 52658.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill number 5258. An act declaring July 4 of every year a special non-working holiday in the province of Lanao del Norte in commemoration of its founding anniversary to be known as Araw ng Lanao. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 5258 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, we move to resume consideration on House Bill number 705. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators on September 6, 2018. Therefore, complying with the three-day rule of the Constitution, I now therefore move for the approval on third reading House Bill number 705.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill number 705, an act declaring December 8 of every year a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Agoo, province of La Union, to be known as Agoo Day. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 705 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on House Bill number 6160. I so
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators on September 6, 2018, therefore complying with the three-day rule of the Constitution. Therefore, now move to vote on third reading House Bill number 6160. So moved.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill number 6160, an act declaring September 7 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Cavite, province of Cavite, in commemoration of its founding anniversary. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 6160 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on House Bill number 1928. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators on September 6, 2018. We are now ready to vote on third reading. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill number 1928, an act declaring June 16 of every year a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Villanueva, province of Misamis Oriental, in commemoration of its founding anniversary to be known as Araw ng Villanueva. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 1928 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, may I just ask for a 2-minute suspension, a quick suspension.
Before that, there is one more
Yes,
on
Mr.
third
President,
reading, and
the
that is
problem-
the reason for your suspension.
Because the mayor wants to be here to witness this. Apparently, he's downstairs somewhere, Mr. President. Maybe giving him 2 minutes, he'll be able to enter the gallery before we vote on third and final reading, with the permission of the body, Mr. President.
Request is granted. Session is suspended.
Mr. President, ready to resume.
Session is resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the indulgence of my colleagues allowing a 2-minute break to allow the mayor of Bacolod City and his councilors to witness this very historic occasion for them. Because if they were not here, Mr. President, they would not be given a certificate of appearance. And so I'm glad that they were able to make it on time. Mr. President, with that, we move to resume consideration of House Bill number 7044. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, printed copies were distributed to the senators on September 6, 2018, therefore complying with the 3-day rule of the Constitution. We are now ready to vote, Mr. President, on third reading. I so move.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
House Bill number 7044, an act declaring June 18 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Bacolod, province of Negros Occidental, to be known as the Bacolod City Charter Day, in commemoration of the day President Manuel L. Quezon signed and approved into effect Commonwealth Act number 326, creating the city of Bacolod. Roll call vote, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 7044 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd just like to also put on record as my roots coming from Bacolod and Negros Occidental, we'd like to thank also the good sponsor, Senator Sani Angara, for coming up with a win-win solution that allows the recognition of all three major important dates in the history of Bacolod City, which is June 18, and for the Charter Day, as well as the dates in October, which is the Mascara Festival, and the commemoration also of the city of Bacolod will still be recognized under this new law. It was a win-win solution when there were certain sectors that felt that we shouldn't change the dates of October to June. But historically, Mr. President, or at least Supreme Court precedents had ruled, the signing of a charter, the signing of the charter of the law creating the cityhood is the Charter Day. And so we're just complying with the Supreme Court jurisprudence, Mr. President. But even though we wanted to recognize all these significant dates under the law. So again, we also like to credit Senator Sani Angara for being part of the win-win solution. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues for being here for our third reading measures. May I ask for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended.
Ma'am, you ready? Nice. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business. Messages from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 4 September 2018, it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House number 4113 entitled, An Act Increasing the Maternity Leave Period to 100 Days for Female Workers in the Government Service in the Private Sector and granting an option to extend for an additional 30 days without pay.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
And House number 6769 entitled, An Act Expanding the Prohibition of Discriminatory Acts Against Women on Account of Sex, amending for the purpose Presidential Decree number 442 as amended, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines.
Referred to the Committees on Labor, Women.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 4 September 2018, it concurred with the Senate's amendments on House number 7522 entitled, An Act Reapportioning the Province of Aklan into 2 legislative districts.
To the Archives.
Bills on first reading. Senate number 1979 entitled, An Act Amending Charter 7, Title 6 and Section 151 and creating new sections 151-A and 151-B of Republic Act number 8424, otherwise known as the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
Senate number 1980 entitled, An Act to Encourage More Filipino Lawyers to Serve the People and Join the Public Attorney's Office, establishing for the purpose the Abogado para sa Bayan Return Service Program, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Justice and Finance.
Senate number 1981 entitled, An Act to Provide Free Legal Assistance to All Indigent Filipinos, amending for the purpose Chapter 5, Title 3, Book 4 of Executive Order number 292, otherwise known as the Administrative Code of 1987, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Justice and Social Justice and Finance.
Senate number 1982 entitled, An Act Providing for the Manner of Selecting an Acting President as required under Article 7, Section 7 of the Constitution, introduced by Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III.
Referred to the Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes.
Resolutions. PS Resolution number 876 entitled, A Resolution Commending and Congratulating Marjeline Didal for winning the gold medal in the Women's Street Skateboard Competition at the 2018 Asian Games, introduced by Senator Emmanuel Manny D. Pacquiao.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 877 entitled, Resolution Congratulating and Commending Heidelin Diaz, Yuka Saso, Bianca Pangandangan, Lois K. Go, Marjeline Didal, and other Filipino athletes for their performance in the 2018 Asian Games held in Jakarta and Palembang, Indonesia, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 878 entitled, Resolution Urging the Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations Blue Ribbon to conduct a full-blown inquiry on the purported anomalies in the Armed Forces of the Philippines Health Service Command, AFP-HSC, with the end in view of reforming the organization and weeding out corruption in the military, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations.
PS Resolution number 879 entitled, Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Food to investigate the importation of rice infested with bukbok or weevils, resulting in inferior quality of rice and delayed delivery of affordable rice to the provinces, with the objectives of recommending measures to ensure the availability, accessibility, and affordability of quality rice, protecting public health, and punishing individuals for reckless disregard for the lives and safety of Filipinos, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
PS Resolution number 880 entitled, Resolution Urging the Special Committee on Marawi City Rehabilitation and the Committee on Women, Family Relations, and Gender Equality to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the rehabilitation efforts, with particular consideration that a substantial number of children are reportedly suffering from severe acute malnutrition and hence must be addressed immediately, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Senate Special Committee on Marawi City Rehabilitation and the Committee on Health.
Committee reports. Committee report number 434, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Science and Technology and Finance on Senate number 1983, with Senators Aquino IV, Legarda, and Soto III as authors thereof, entitled, An Act Establishing the Philippine Space Development and Utilization Policy and Creating the Philippine Space Agency and for Other Purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate numbers 1211, 1259, and 1572, sponsored Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 435, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation and Finance on Senate number 1984, with Senators Drilon, Trillanes IV, Ejercito, and Pimentel III as authors thereof, entitled, An Act Strengthening the Political Party System of the Philippines, Creating a State Subsidy Fund for Political Parties and for Other Purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate numbers 226, 455, and 885, sponsor Senator Aquino Coco Pimentel III.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 436, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation and Public Information and Mass Media on Senate number 1985, with Senators Zubiri and Pimentel III as authors thereof, entitled, An Act Amending Section 11 of Republic Act number 9006, otherwise known as the Fair Election Act, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate numbers 307 and 1777, taking into consideration House number 6604, sponsor Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move to transfer the calendar of ordinary business to calendar special order. Senate Bill number 1983 under Committee Report number 434. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate and our colleagues, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1983 under Committee Report number 434. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, consideration of Senate Bill 1983 is in order.
May we ask the Senate Secretary, Mr. President, to read the measure.
The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate number 1983, an act establishing the Philippine Space Development and Utilization Policy and creating the Philippine Space Agency and for other purposes.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, we recognize the honorable gentleman from Tarlac, Senator Bam Aquino, to sponsor the said measure.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Magandang hapon, Mr. President, Majority Floor Leader, mga kasama po sa Senado. I address you today to sponsor Senate Bill number 1983 under Committee Report number 434, entitled An Act Establishing the Philippine Space Development and Utilization Policy and Creating the Philippine Space Agency and for other purposes, otherwise known as the Philippine Space Agency Act. Have you ever looked out of the window of an airplane during takeoff? Habang pataas ng pataas po ang eroplano, paliit ng pilit ang mga building, mga bahay at mga tao. Habang palayo po kayo ng palayo sa lupa, para bang naiiwan mo na din ang mga problema ng bayan. I was reminded of that feeling while reading responses to one of our online polls that asked if our country should invest in a Philippine Space Agency. Madami po nagsabi na kailangan po muna nating ayusin ang ating mga problema dito po sa lupa bago tayo tumingin sa outer space. Naintindihan po natin sila. Marami nga po tayong problema ang kailangan ayusin ngayon. Tuwing may bagyo, may matinding pagbaha. Araw-araw wala pong katapusan ng traffic. Pataas ng pataas ang presyo ng bilihin at parang hindi po natin matuldukan ang kahirapan sa ating bansa. Bakit tayo gagawa ng isang space agency? Pero natuwa po ako sa sagot ng isang Michael Francisco at sinagot po niya ito sa aming social media platform. Sabi po niya, malaki ang maitutulong ng space program sa agrikultura, sa pag-aayos ng traffic, pagfo-forecast ng bagyo at marami pang iba. Doon po sa kanyang sagot, nag-link pa siya sa isang article sa GMA Network na may pamagat, Why the Philippines Needs a Space Agency. Natuwa po akong makakita ng mga Pilipinong nangangarap ng malaki para po sa ating bayan. Natuwa po ako na hindi pa nawawalan ng pag-asa ang iilan nating kababayan sa paghahanap ng solusyon sa mga problema ng ating bansa. Hindi man po masusolusyonan ng Space Agency ang lahat ng issue ng Pilipinas, malaki pa rin pong maiaambag nito sa buhay ng mga Pilipino. For one, satellites can improve disaster management from providing accurate information that allow early warnings and predicting of disasters to reliable and quick communication during relief and recovery operations. Para sa bansang lagi na lang natatamaan ng bagyo at pagbaha, malaking tulong po ang Philippine Space Agency para siguraduhing ligtas ang bawat pamilyang Pilipino. Space technology also enhances production and profitability of agribusinesses thanks to soil and weather monitoring and assessment. Ang nakukuha pong data ng isang space agency ay makakatulong sa mga magsasaka na planuhin at timing ng kanilang pagsaka at irigasyon nito para dumami ang kanilang ani. Para naman po sa mga nagmamahal sa kalikasan gaya nila Senator Legarda at Villar, makakatulong din po ang space agency sa environmental conservation. It can even improve urban planning, transportation and communication networks para mabigyan ng ginhawa ang mga Pilipinong nawawalan na ng pasensya dahil po sa traffic at sa bagal ng internet. Malayo man ang outer space sa Pilipinas, kung nasa puso naman ng Philippine Space Agency ang pagserbisyo sa ating mga kababayan at pagsuporta sa pag-unlad ng bayan, hinding-hindi po ito masasayang. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, launching a Philippine Space Agency will give us a new perspective and valuable insights that can help solve some of our country's biggest problems. A solid space program can improve disaster management, enhance the lives of Filipino farmers, speed up our internet and telecommunication systems, and help us build more livable cities. So let's continue to dream big for our country. Let's never tire of finding better solutions for our countrymen. Mga kaibigan, ipasa po natin ang Philippine Space Agency Act. Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study the measure a bit further, we move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1983. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved. The consideration is suspended.
Senator Coco? Mr. President, I move that we, with the permission of the body, I move that we transfer the calendar of ordinary business to the calendar for special orders, Senate Bill number 1985 under Committee Report number 436. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, Senate Bill 1985 is transferred.
Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1985. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, consideration is in order.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we
Yes,
ask the Secretary to read the
yes.
title of the measure?
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Bill 1985, an act amending Republic Act number 9006, otherwise known as the Fair Election Act.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we ask the Chair of the Committee on
Electoral reform.
Electoral Reforms, the Honorable former Senate President and Senator Coco Pimentel, to sponsor the measure.
Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Mr. President and my esteemed colleagues, magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. It is my honor to speak before our session today to seek your full support for the passage of Senate Bill number 1985, an act amending Section 11 of Republic Act number 9006, otherwise known as the Fair Election Act. The passage of this bill, which is a product of the collaboration of the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation and the Committee on Public Information and Mass Media, into a duly enacted legislation, will result in all media outlets being required to give all registered political parties and all bona fide candidates higher discounted rates for television and radio advertisements during the election period. I wish to thank our distinguished colleague, our Majority Leader, Senator Mig Zubiri, a fellow Mindanaonon from Bukidnon, for co-authoring this legislation and for shepherding it through its most difficult stages. With this proposed legislation, we intend to give all participants in future elections more opportunity to inform our countrymen about themselves, their platforms, and their plans as potential public servants, as candidates, in other words. Thomas Jefferson once wrote, "The will of the people is the only legitimate foundation of any government, and to protect its free expression should be our first object." Free expression of our people's will is better ventilated during an election period if all those who vie for the votes of our people are undeterred in delivering their messages to their voters, especially if the deterrence is the prohibitive cost. Relieved of the burden of the prohibitive costs of political advertisements, candidates and political parties participating in future elections will have more opportunities to communicate their messages to the electorate in all forms of the so-called mainstream media. While it may appear that well-funded candidates and political parties are afforded more media exposure, this is not necessarily true because they will still be limited by the maximum airtime and print space allowed them by law. So actually, this is the essence now of the other rule, that there must be a maximum airtime for TV and radio advertisements and a maximum space for print advertisements. By passing this piece of legislation, we hope to make our people more aware of their choices on election day. The result of the elections hopefully will reflect a more discerning electorate to be emulated by future generations of Filipino voters. The proposed discounted rates found in the bill will be as follows: from 30% to 40% discount for television, from 20% to 30% discount for radio. This 10% increase in the discount rates will surely go a long way for any political candidate. The discount rates provided for in our proposed legislation is not intended to provide a ceiling on the imposable rates. Rather, it provides the minimum, because we have to make sure of this, because a misinterpretation of the existing law was relayed to me, that it was providing for a ceiling discount rate. Nothing in this proposed bill prohibits a media outlet from giving higher discounts, more discounts. However, in the name of parity and fair play, it is required that the discount given to one candidate shall be the same discount that will be given to the other candidates for the same position, a level playing field. The bill seeks to apply the higher discount rates for TV and radio ads based on the average of the published rates these media outlets charge the regular non-political or commercial advertisers during the last 3 calendar years prior to an election. This is to allay fears of some candidates that media outlets unreasonably increase their rates immediately prior to an election. So we should distinguish the purpose of a political advertisement from that of a regular non-political or commercial advertisement. The former's prime purpose is to educate the electorate about the qualifications, platforms, and track records of political candidates, while the latter is for economic or commercial gain or purposes. Because of the importance and higher interest of society in educating the electorate on their political choices, it is just proper and correct that media outlets contribute to this common good. Political advertisements should not be an opportunity for them to earn profits. So to my mind, this should be part of their social responsibility. Robert Kennedy once said, "Elections remind us not only of the rights but the responsibilities of citizenship in a democracy." Election day affords every citizen the opportunity to fully discharge the responsibilities of citizenship as he casts his votes. It starts with an informed choice, attainable only if candidates are allowed to convey their messages to their voters in a cost-efficient way. So, Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues, it is for these foregoing reasons that this humble representation most respectfully seeks the full support of this chamber for the immediate passage of this proposed legislation. This is just the first of many more bills that I wish to sponsor as the new chairman of the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation to ensure a more effective, fair, and participatory electoral system in our country. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President and my dear colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Coco Pimentel. The measure that you have just sponsored will give the senators who were elected in 2016 a new theme song. The title is Bakit Ngayon Ka Lang?
Bakit ngayon ka lang daw? Kailangan na ng ginagawa.
Majority Leader.
You're absolutely correct, Mr. President. Yan din ang sinabi ni Senator Villanueva sa akin. Sana nagawa ito 3 years ago bago tayo tumakbo. But congratulations are in order for the committee chair. Mr. President, are you ready? To allow our colleagues to study the measure a bit further, we move to suspend consideration on Senate Bill number 1985. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Consideration measure is suspended.
Mr. President, we have some local bills here. I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 2483 and recognize the sponsor, Senator Sani Angara. Sir.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Consideration of House Bill 2483 is in order. Chair recognizes the sponsor, Senator Sani Angara.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. No interpellations.
Mr. President, no member signified their intention to interpolate. This is an act declaring July 4 every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Cadiz, province of Negros Occidental. I'm reading the title, Mr. President, because we have media from Negros here with us today. So with that, Mr. President, I move that we close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. Period of interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. President, we move to open the period of amendments.
No amendments, Mr. President.
And therefore, Mr. President, we move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments hereby closed.
With that, Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading House Bill number 2483. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 2483 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same measure.
Consideration of the measure is hereby suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 2097. This is an act declaring December 2 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Pasay. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
No.
No interpellations, Mr. President, Majority Leader.
Mr. President, there being no member who signified intention to interpolate the measure, we move to close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. President, we move to open the period of amendments.
Period of amendments. Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
No amendments, Mr. President.
Mr. President, with that, we move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is adopted. Period of amendments closed.
Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading House Bill number 2097. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, House Bill 2097 is approved on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is hereby suspended.
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration House Bill number 5172. I so move.
Any objection? There being none, consideration is in order.
This is an act declaring June 19 of every year a special non-working holiday in the province of Laguna, honoring our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal. There being no member to interpolate, Mr. President, we move to close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. President, I was told by the sponsor there are no amendments proposed, both individual and committee. We move to close the period of amendments. Mr.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendment is hereby closed.
Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading House Bill number 5172. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 5172 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 5641. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, consideration of 5641 House Bill is in order.
Mr. President, This is an act declaring December 1 of every year a special non-working holiday for the municipality of Padre Garcia. There being no member also that signified to interpolate the measure, we move to close the period of interpolations.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpolation is hereby closed.
Mr. President, the sponsor has also told me that there are no amendments. Both individual and committee, we move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments closed.
Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading House Bill number 5641. I so move.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 5641 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 2130. I so move. Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Consideration is in order.
This is an act declaring September 1 of every year a non-working holiday in the municipality of Hasaan in the province of Misamis Oriental. Mr. President, no member has signified to interpolate the measure. We move to close the period of interpolation.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpolation is hereby closed.
There are no amendments as well, both committee and individual. We move to close the period of amendments, Your Honor.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Period of amendments is closed.
Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading House Bill number 2130. I so move. Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 2130 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, we move to suspend consideration of the same measure.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you to the honorable sponsor. Mr. President, may I ask for a 1-minute suspension to locate the sponsor of... May we recognize Senator Coco Pimentel?
Senator Coco Pimentel is recognized.
Just a brief manifestation, Mr. President, that with the permission of the co-authors, Senator Subiri and myself, we also note the co-authorship of Senator Gordon of Senate Bill number 1985, the bill which I just
Fair
sponsored.
Elections Act.
Yes. Yes, Mr. President. Thank you very
Senator
much.
Gordon will be placed on record as a co-author.
Thank you, Mr. President. We just ask for 1-minute suspension.
Senator Gordon is recognized.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I would like to co-sponsor this bill and work it over with the distinguished Senator Pimentel so that we could find ways to really come out with a bill that will hopefully ease the pain of many of our people who want to run but don't have the resources to run. And that's why it took a little while, and I was asking for a postponement of the hearing so that I could attend. But, you know, there was so much work at the time. And it's partly my fault, and I don't blame Senator Pimentel for it. But we made some corrections to the previously filed bill to make it better. So, on the record, Mr. President, I will co-sponsor it at the proper time. Maybe tomorrow, if that's okay with the chair, Mr. President.
Tomorrow would be very acceptable.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And then perhaps we can elaborate more in the period of interpolation.
Yes, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, we ask for just a 1-minute suspension to locate the interpolator of Senator Gordon on his SSS bill. So I ask for 1 minute suspension.
Make it 5 minutes.
Yes, Mr. President, 5 minutes.
Session is suspended for 5 Senate minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
Mr. President, I move for reading of the additional reference of business. So move.
Any objection? Additional reference of business?
Additional reference of business, bills on first reading. Senate number 1986 entitled, An Act Declaring February 23 of every year a special working holiday to be known as National Rotary Day, introduced by Senator Laila M. De Lima.
To the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development.
Senate number 1987 entitled, An Act Extending for Another 25 Years the Franchise Granted to Philippine Communications Satellite Corporation, PhilComSat, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 5514 as amended by Republic Act number 7949, entitled, An Act Granting the Philippine Communications Satellite Corporation a franchise to establish and operate ground satellite terminal station or stations for telecommunication with satellite facilities and delivery to common carriers, introduced by Senator Escudero.
To the Committee on Public Services and Ways and Means.
Senate number 1988 entitled, An Act Providing for Safety Measures for Culverts or Other Similar Flood or Drainage Systems Maintained by Government Entities, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
To the Committee on Public Works.
Senate number 1989 entitled, An Act Providing for the Establishment of a Manpower Development Institute in the 2nd District Province of South Cotabato to be known as the South Cotabato Manpower Training Center and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
To the Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development and Finance.
Senate number 1990 entitled, An Act Establishing the Office of Flood Research and Policy to plan, coordinate, conduct, and share research on flooding, flood prevention, and other flood-related issues, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
To the Committees on Public Works, National Defense and Security, and Finance.
Resolution. Senate Concurrent Resolution number 13 entitled, Concurrent Resolution Urging the Commission on Elections to reset to October 11 to 17, 2018 from October 1 to 5, 2018 the filing of the certificates of candidacy in connection with the May 13, 2019 national and local elections, introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to consider Senate Concurrent Resolution number 13. This is the concurrent resolution urging the COMELEC to reset the filing of the certificates of candidacy from October 1st to October 5, 2018 to October 11 to 17, 2018 in connection with the May 13, 2019 national and local elections. Mr. President, COMELEC Resolution number 10420 sets the filing of certificates of candidacy on October 1 to 5, 2018. We also received, Mr. President, information that our counterparts in the House of Representatives had already adopted a similar concurrent resolution.
Any objection?
With that manifestation, Mr. President, may I respectfully move to adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution number 13, subject to style. I so move, Mr. President.
Subject to style. Any objection? Hearing none.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I move for 1 minute suspension?
Session suspended.
We're ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1753 as reported out under Committee Report number 300.
Any objection? Hearing none.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this is a measure on SSS Charter Amendment, the parliamentary status of the measures that we are in the period of interpellation. I move to recognize the sponsor of the measure, Senator Richard Gordon, and to interpellate Senate President Pro Tem Senator Ralph Recto.
Senator Gordon and the Senate President Pro Tem are recognized.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Senate President. Would the distinguished sponsor of the measure yield to a few clarificatory questions?
Willingly, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyway, thanks.
Yes. Mr. President, may I find out from the sponsor what is the reason for amending the charter of the SSS? What is the problem and what are we trying to solve, Mr. President?
Your Honor, the current problem is that the running of the amounts being collected by the SSS, the funds have been reduced drastically by the increase of 1,000 pesos given by the President last year. In addition to that, Mr. President, we want a lot more leverage for the SSS to be able to include OFWs and other folks, and to allow it more leeway in making sure that they can act with facility so that in case the funds are being endangered, the COMELEC board, the SSS board would be able to act with speed, Mr. President, so that there will be no monies lost.
Yes.
In addition to this, they would be also allowed to go into investing the funds for public-private partnerships and for other things, so that there will be more money to allow them to raise the resources of the SSS and extend the life thereof, and grant more benefits such as death, maternity, pension, and the like, Your Honor.
Thank you for that response, Mr. President. I've looked at the financial statements of the SSS, and it would appear to me that in 2017, didn't they have a net profit, Mr. President?
Net profit, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Ito? 20.3 billion, Your Honor, in 2017.
Yes. And when did we apply the 1,000 across-the-board increase, Mr. President?
January 2017, Your Honor.
So, in spite of the increase in pensions of 1,000 each, they still generated a net profit of 20 plus billion. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And do we expect that they have also a net profit for 2018?
Ano ba? Tapos sabihin 2018 niya. As of this month. As of last month. Ilan? Six months ending June, Your Honor, they generated 2.8 billion, Your Honor.
That is correct. And therefore,
Down from 19 billion last year, Your Honor.
and therefore, funds will not be depleted if they had a net profit in 2017 when we applied the 1,000 peso across the board. And as of June this year, they are still having a net profit. Is that correct?
Your Honor, it may not have been depleted, but it's dangerously depleted because 2 billion against the loss of 19 billion that they could have obtained, that they obtained in 2017 for the full year, Your Honor. You can estimate that and say, assuming you divide it liberally by half, that means they are behind by about 8 billion to 9
Yes.
billion. Your Honor.
But they are not in a loss. There is a profit. That's what I'm driving at now, Mr. President.
Yes, Your Honor, you're correct. But
And
certainly-
therefore, if there is a net profit, then the fund increases because that money now will go to the reserve fund.
the revenues will ultimately be overrun by the constant payment of pensions as people retire and other benefits, Your Honor. And if we don't do anything about it now, the fund life will be reduced by 10 years. Originally, it was supposed to last up to 24 years, 2042. Now, at 2032, it will be reduced by, it has been reduced by 10 years, Your Honor. So by 2032, it will be totally flatlined, Your Honor.
Mr. President, I did meet with the SSS and we discussed these issues, and frankly speaking, I don't see it that way, especially if there is a profit, because the reserve fund continues to increase, no? And that assumes many other factors as they are mentioning. But nevertheless, the point is this, Mr. President.
Your Honor,
What is the reason for assuming that to be correct? Assuming that to be correct. And as pointed out, last year, 2017, we implemented the increase in pension, and yet they have a profit of 28 billion. And isn't it correct that lumaki rin ang reserve fund nila?
ilan laki? Ipakita niyo sa akin. 30 seconds, Your Honor, because
Sure.
these are numbers and
Sure.
we have to count by the billions.
Yes, yes.
Ano?
From 476 million, naging 504 million
Tumakas.
last year. Kasi may net income na 28 billion. So,
I am being told, Your Honor, from a period of December 2016 of 476 billion.3, it rose actually to 504.8 billion, Your Honor.
That is correct. So therefore, hindi naman talaga you implemented the first year. So hindi problema in that sense. Now, there could be many other factors, for example, Mr. President. Maybe in 2018, the reduction in revenues of SSS would be that their investments, the income on their investments will probably drop because the stock market has dropped. Isn't that correct, Mr. President?
The stock market may have dropped, and that's a fact, but it could also rise up. But the SSS is not dependent on the rise and fall.
Yes, no, I'm
of the
talking
stock
about
market.
just 2018 because it gets dividends from their equities. So it's possible that the income is less in 2018 because of the bad market. Isn't that correct?
No, because of the bond market or the stock market.
They will get less dividends.
Give me a good answer.
Definitely.
Partly, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
On their
according to-
investments,
Yes.
right? Then the bonds, with regard to their bonds, if there were government bonds, if they were to liquefy today, of course the market value of those bonds will be less because it will be trading at a discount, especially that the market is expecting higher interest rates. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So the problem now is more on the investment side.
Yes and no, Your Honor, because on the investment side, they want more liberality in their ability to invest so that they
Yes.
could have a cushion, a
Yes.
very, very important cushion,
Yes.
significant cushion at that. But at the same time, as they go along, more people die and they get pensions, more people give birth and they give maternity dividends and stuff like that, Your Honor.
But it's also a fact, Mr. President, that, and I will show it later on, that as more people need a pension, more people die, so on and so forth. But then, more people are also coming into the workforce who pays for the dividends, to pay for the membership contribution. In fact, today, Mr. President, how many members do you have in the SSS? Or active members, those paying?
36 million registered members active, Your Honor.
Active is about 15, isn't that
And 15
correct?
million paying.
15 million paying. And how many pensioners are there? 2 million, roughly?
2,300,000, Your Honor.
Correct. So 2.3. Therefore, what does that mean? Assuming membership contribution is the same as benefit payment, for every 7 in the workforce, you are paying for the pension of 1 person.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
Correct. Right? Okay. So as the economy improves, more people get jobs, it's the same.
Declining population growth.
Okay?
I'm told by the actuary, Your Honor, that the ratio of paying members will go down because of the decline in the population rate as we go along.
But the population rate is still higher than today, is still higher than people dying, Mr. President. There's a positive growth of 2% every year, roughly.
Your Honor, I'm being met by blank stares here. But using my experience in government, if I
That
may,
is correct, yes.
as an executive, I would always want to have a big cushion because if I get more members, and if I get more members, especially in the Provident Fund and the Plexi Fund, the Peso Fund, you may be able to give more benefits to our folks out there. But I do not want to see a situation where a sudden turn for the worse, and the economy of the world is so blisteringly in danger right now, Your Honor. You want to have an effective cushion. And there's nothing wrong with that for a cushion, but there is a lot more things that can happen that is wrong if we don't have if we don't have the ability to deflect any
Yes.
sudden fall of the
Sure.
economy, Your Honor.
Correct. And I'm one with you in this purpose. And in fact, I thank the gentleman for coming out with this measure because finally we get to talk about pensions in this country,
Yes, Your Honor.
particularly with regard to the SSS. And I'd like to assure the sponsor of this measure that my interpolation is only to improve the SSS as a pensions fund system.
No need to do that, Your Honor. We've been friends for a long time.
Yes, yes.
The gentleman has been a friend for a long time. I don't question his integrity and his expertise and intelligence, Your Honor, even if he's from the other school.
Thank you. Which is the better school, Mr. President? But I think we both lost yesterday.
Yes, Your Honor. We won't lost.
La Salle and Ateneo lost yesterday. But having said that, Mr. President, I think my advantage from the sponsors is that I came from both Ateneo and La Salle.
That's true. But not all of us can be perfect, Your Honor. You go to Ateneo and you go to UP.
I also went to UP, Mr. President.
That's good, yeah.
Ateneo, La Salle, and UP.
I
That's
can
why.
see the gentleman from Bulacan, from UST, is turning green with envy, Your Honor. Not because he's from Lazao. But this is just levity, Your Honor, levity.
Thank you, yes. Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, and the reason for the reserve fund is in effect saving for the rainy day. Isn't that correct?
Saving for a rainy day.
Correct.
That's correct.
As
These are
you
forced
mentioned
savings.
earlier.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's a forced savings mechanism. That's what the pension fund is all about, the SSS.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And by and large, it is the people in the workforce today paying for the pensioners. And as I mentioned
It is their
earlier,
money, Your Honor.
correct.
And we are just, the SSS, the government through SSS are the stewards.
Correct.
And that is why, Your Honor, the only thing that will hurt the SSS if it goes down is that all of us in the Senate and the lower house will have to provide for funding because this is a guaranteed
By the national government.
levy. That's right,
That
Your
is
Honor.
correct. Since its inception, has government ever have to subsidize the SSS?
No, Your Honor.
Never.
Fortunately not, Your Honor.
And when did we create the SSS?
1957, Your Honor.
So since 1957 to today, never naman na bangkarote ang SSS.
500,000 noong araw, Your Honor, with money of 500,000, they managed to make it bigger.
Correct.
So there must be something wrong with us that if they can make it bigger by that much, we can even make it dramatically bigger
Yes, Mr.
and benefit the common man.
Mr. President, I will get to that. And isn't the SSS a monopoly?
Oh, definitely.
It is a monopoly.
For all private employees, not the public, Your Honor.
Correct, correct. So it's mandated by government. Now, for savings mechanism, it has no competitor. It's mandated by the powers of the state, mandated by law through the coercive powers of the state that everyone must contribute, those in the private sector.
Your Honor, I'd like to think by way of Philippine standards, but by international standards, we pale by comparison to China, which I believe has a savings rate of 47%. Or for that matter, Singapore, which I think is the highest with 52%, if memory serves correct. And Your Honor, I'd like to see our savings rates go up because that would also improve the investment climate in this country
That is correct.
if we do that.
Yeah,
So
the
there are
problem why,
benefits that
yes,
we can see.
the problem why we have low savings rate is because of low productivity and high inflation. So
Yes.
if prices of goods are too high and 70% of the income of Filipinos goes to food alone, what savings are we talking about, right?
Well, Your Honor, first of all, before I answer your question, Your Honor,
Yeah.
let me just correct myself.
Yes.
In Macau, China, their gross savings rate is 65.2%, and gross savings percentage of GDP in 2016 is 48.6%.
And
Brunei
yeah.
is 54.1, but then they're all entirely subsidized in Brunei, so they have, they're not really talking about Singapore, they have 48.2%, China has 46.4%, Thailand, which used to be our competitor, is 36.4%, Indonesia is 30.3%, India, with a big population, has 30% savings, Malaysia has 28.4%, Japan pales by comparison with China with 26.2%.
Yes.
Vietnam 24.9%, Israel, where I came from recently, 24%, and even lowly Cambodia beats us with an 18%, 18.7 savings percent rate. The Philippines has 15.9 savings rate, Mr. President.
Yes. And like I said, the reason for that is because of bad policies, particularly in agriculture. 70% of the consumption of the average Filipino goes to food alone.
Goes to food,
So
yes,
if
sir.
inflation is high, naturally, more consumption, less savings.
Definitely, Your Honor.
Okay, now having said that, Mr. President, my question was this, no? As designed, and like I said, never pa naman nagbayad ang gobyerno sa SSS. Okay? As designed, a social security pension system really is for you to, for savings mechanism so that when you grow old and you're no longer as productive, meron kang makukuha
Yes, Your Honor. That's the
for
principle.
your senior citizen, yung pension mo.
In your golden years.
In your golden years. Okay, now. And who pays for that? Essentially, it is the ones in the labor force today. As I mentioned in the Philippine setting, there are 15 million active members paying
Yes.
and 2 million pensionado sa SSS. 7:1 ang ratio.
Yes.
Right? Okay, now. The reserve fund basically is the fund for the rainy day, as I mentioned earlier.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay? Now, so for as long as membership contribution and expenses more or less are equal, okay, it is sustainable. The reserve fund is invested now, and that reserve fund is just a forced savings for the rainy day, in effect.
Yes, Your Honor. It is what you might call a responsible way of running the fund.
Yes.
That you have something for a rainy day.
Correct, correct. Okay? And today, that reserve fund is roughly kulang-kulang 500 billion.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay? And that's how it should work, more or less, no?
Yes, sir.
Now, kung meron ka naman, and that grows because of the investment. Lumalaki din yung reserve fund as you invest it properly.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
But by parity of reasoning, and I'm following your reasoning as well,
Yes.
if, let us say, people decide we don't want to pay, and anyway we have a 500 billion worth of reserve fund, and there are more people paying, and suddenly something happens,
Yes.
there'll be riot, catastrophe, and calamity, Your Honor.
No, precisely. That's why you save for the rainy day, and that's what the reserve fund is. And how does that grow naman, aside from the investment? For example, if your contribution is more than the benefits you're paying out, as was the case in 2016, just to put on record, for example, magkano ba yung contributions in 2016?
Magkano ang
Ang
contribution?
total contributions in 2016?
2016. 144 billion, Your Honor.
Okay. And magkano naman yung benefit payment noong 2016?
133 billion, Your Honor.
Therefore, may 11 billion gap. Tama?
Yes, Your Honor. Tama.
That 11 billion goes to the reserve fund.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, lumalaki yung reserve fund mo. And therefore, as long as you invest it properly, at palaki ng palaki yun, okay?
But in 2017, Your Honor, it reverted.
So, for the first year, you're saying, just to finish lang, So pag lumalaki na lumalaki yon, then there's enough money, there's a surplus to pay for whatever benefits. Because
So
like I
far.
said, today naman, yes, di ba? That's correct, right? Okay, now,
In 2016, but not necessarily, in 2017, not that much, but it's beginning to show fatigue, Your Honor.
correct.
Which means that the benefits were higher by 11 billion, Your Honor.
That is correct. Correct. So I'll get to that.
170 over 159.
Correct. Okay, now, let's move on, Mr. President, as I mentioned. But still, in 2017, in spite of that, because maybe of certain dividends, and that's why in the financial statement, it is service and business income, may profit pa rin.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so hindi nalulugi. And because of this, I'm saying that I don't think na magkakaproblema ang SSS by 2030. In that sense, no? Now,
By
having said that,
2030,
yes, which they mentioned before that
2032.
2032, okay? Kasi may profit pa rin, and it really depends on where you invest the money as well, no? Okay. Now, there are many issues, Mr. President. For example, today, as we mentioned earlier, 15 million contribute to SSS, mandatory contributions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, those SSS members did not go to SSS to contribute. These were salaries withheld, so this is a payroll tax withheld by employers. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the SSS collects from how many number of employers?
955,000.
I think the total universe is 955,000.
Yes.
But they're collecting probably from only 400,000. Isn't that correct?
Well, if you look at the
No,
situation,
just the question first, just the question. So that 15 million that we're collecting from members today, were not collected from the members, but from the establishments. And the number of establishments we're collecting from today is roughly 400,000. Is that correct?
employers are 406 million as of 2017, Your Honor.
I'm sorry? Employers are?
406,000, I'm sorry.
400. So like I said, roughly 400,000. So 406,000. Okay. Now, how many workers do we have in the system that should be contributing to SSS?
In the system, Your Honor, they have 34.8 million in 2016 and 36 million in 2017.
Akin yung labor data. Isn't it, Mr. President, that maybe to help the SSS, what is the total labor force in the country?
42 million, Your Honor.
Okay? I think that the total labor force is actually 71 million. Labor force, huh? The labor force participation rate is 60%, and therefore those working are 43 million.
Employed, Your Honor.
Employed.
Employed.
Yes, because those employed, yun ang kukolektahin dapat ng SSS. Tama? Okay. That 43 million, ang nagbabayad lang 15 million.
Yes.
Okay? So what is the efficiency ratio now of SSS?
That is a question that has often been asked since I became senator, Your Honor.
Yes.
The collection efficiency is held under question, and for that matter, I authored a condonation.
It's in the bill, the condonation. And I support that provision.
54% ang collection
No, it's much less.
efficiency, Your Honor.
Oo.
And we authored a condonation law in 2009 that netted them about 4 billion, if I'm not mistaken, Your Honor.
In fact, I support the gentleman's provision in the committee report that in day-to-day operations, yung condonation of non-payment of basic, di ba? Or the penalty that you can condone, di mo na kailangan ng pirma ng presidente. I support that provision.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay? Now, the point I'm trying to drive at is this. SSS is a monopoly. Coercive powers of the state. Okay? Mandating that all employers and employees contribute to this system. 11%. Okay? Roughly 8 from employer and 3 from the employee. And we should be collecting from 43 million. Today, they're collecting from 15 million lang. So their efficiency is only roughly 30% in that sense.
Very low.
Right? Okay. Now, there's a provision here in the committee report that they can raise the rates to whatever they want, walang limit. Isn't that correct?
Contribution. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I got...
There is a provision in the committee report that they can raise the rate, walang limit, at any limit, without the approval of the President, subject to the board's decision.
That's correct, Your Honor. That's why...
Now, my problem with that is this, Mr. President. 30% lang yung efficiency mo. So normally, yun din ang magbabayad ng increase in rate.
Yes.
Okay? And that's my problem. I think the first thing that SSS has to do is to improve its efficiency in collecting. Kasi 30% lang sila eh. Okay?
That is correct, Your Honor. And the efficiency has got to be dramatically increased before they even increase the rates,
Correct.
actually.
Correct.
And
That's
if
the
I were
point.
running the SSS,
Correct.
I would demand that of all my employees
Correct.
in the SSS, but
Correct.
I'm not the one running.
Correct. Now, I don't fault the gentleman, but in the committee report, there's nothing here that I see that will improve the efficiency. Now, I do have some proposals, but I'm sure that they will be, at the moment, maybe not acceptable. But just to put on record, Mr. President, if you're a businessman today, ikaw ang nagbabayad sa SSS. If you're a businessman today, I will withhold from my employee, meron din ako mag-ibabayad din na counterpart, and every month I pay SSS, BIR, PhilHealth, tatlo-tatlong cheque. Why not one, katulad sa Singapore? Let's say, who has the most police power that can go to a company to say, you pay your taxes, you pay your pag-ibig, you pay your PhilHealth, you pay your SSS?
BIR.
BIR. Okay? So, why not just pay one entity? Walang hassle pa sa negosyante, walang red tape,
One-stop shop.
one-stop shop, and then the BIR now pays PhilHealth, pag-ibig, SSS. Hindi ba ease of doing business din yun?
I would not oppose that, Your Honor.
Right? Okay. So thank you for that, and I appreciate that the gentleman agrees with that.
And also, Your Honor, there would be limitations imposed by the SSS if they start collecting higher rates, up to a ceiling of 21.6% according to them, Your Honor.
Yes. And why is it 21%, Mr. President?
Similar to GSIS, Your Honor.
But nowhere is that in their charter. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor, but that's
Okay.
why the
But can you
doctrine-
imagine if we ask employers and employees to pay 21%?
Oh, there'll be a UN outright.
Correct. Okay? And with government, it's not a problem. But in the private sector, it will cost the rates of doing business. At the same time, labor, magagalit yan.
And we will have a problem attracting foreign investments also.
Correct. And labor,
Domestic
magagalit din yan. Kasi their paycheck now, ang laki ng bawas. Yung binawas mo sa corporate income tax, babawiin mo naman ngayon dito sa SSS.
That's correct.
And that's why I'm looking at this bill, Mr. President.
And
Now,
I'm glad you are, Your Honor.
thank you very much. Okay, so having said that, if 43 million ang total universe of who should be the members of SSS, how many employers are there? Kanina, 15 million is about 406,000 employers. The total universe, if I'm not mistaken, is roughly 970,000.
964,000.
Yeah, mga 970,000, 964,000. So in effect, really the clients of SSS are the members, the ones who are contributing, the laborers. But then they collect it from collecting agencies like the employers.
The employers are the collecting agency. They're
Correct.
mandated.
Okay? And today, their efficiency is less than 50% from the employer standpoint naman.
Well, you know,
40%.
we must remember that this is mostly voluntary contributions, Your Honor.
Mandated.
Mandated yung employer magbayad, pero yung employee, mostly voluntary members
No,
na siya.
the employee is mandated
Compulsory,
ang
right,
employer,
compulsory, right.
compulsory ang
Talking about
member.
OFWs ka pala.
Yes,
no?
yes. Kaltas sa sweldo. Now, just to take one other point before I move on to the next issue. I noticed here also in the bill, and I don't fault the sponsor because it is laudable, na our desire to have OFWs, to give them a pension system. So it's laudable, and I agree with the gentleman. The problem is, if the SSS today cannot even collect from its members, dadagdagan pa naman natin na naman. That's the fear that I see lang.
The point there, Your Honor, is not just collection of revenues from them or
But to give
contributions,
benefits.
but to make sure that these people who leave their families, when they get older, we are taking care of them like a good father of a family.
Correct. I agree with you, and I think that's laudable.
So
Yes.
it's not just selfishness on the part of SSS. We're trying to spread the envelope of, or rather the blanket of protection,
Correct.
social protection
Correct.
to our people, Your Honor.
Yes, I agree, Mr. President. My problem is the inefficiency of SSS to begin with. I mean, kung today, hirap na sila mangolekta, and we're mandating another group to pay. So that's the only manifestation I wanted to make.
Those are empirical data, Your Honor, cannot be
Yes.
denied.
Yes.
So it really reflects on our love of country, our patriotism, that our love of our fellow man. And maybe mali yung advertising thrust ng SSS, that they should really try to go directly to the employer and the employee to let them know that they should save. If the Chinese are saving, if the poor Chinese are saving, so should they. And it really is protection for themselves.
I understand that, Mr. President. Yes, I understand. Now, let me go to some nitty-gritties on whether it really benefits laborers as far as the pension system is concerned, Mr. President. First, Mr. President, why is it that the monthly salary credit today is at 16,000?
I've asked a question, Your Honor, and their answer is the employers are going to raise a UN outcry if you include a higher salary rating for them, Your Honor.
Okay. But today, there is a
Product of negotiation, actually.
Yes. Today it's 16,000. Is that correct? Yes.
Excuse me?
The monthly salary credit today is 16,000.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay? So there is no rationale. Why is it 16,000? Because GSIS, salary standardization, today 4 na tayo. It's 300,000.
That is a product really of negotiation, Your Honor, because umaanga lang employer. So SSS has to negotiate with the employers' confederation and the parties involved, Your Honor. But take a look at this. I'm not trying to disrupt the thinking of the gentleman. For example, the total amount of contributions of Juan Felisa and Fortunato Porca totals 37,000. She's a widow, previous occupation as factory worker, and member since June 1960.
Yeah.
And the total cash benefits received as of August 2016 is 961,510 pesos and 32 centavos, Your Honor.
Yes. That's one side of the picture.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's the benefit. The other side is the contribution.
Yes, of course.
So it's possible that, assuming, so 961,000 yan, it's possible that the husband contributed a big amount. And over time, if you compute it, magkano lang naman yung rate of return na binigay? Okay? I will get to that, Mr. President, in a while.
Di ba mukhang malaki yan? 37,000 ang pinasok niya. Nakuha niya as of total cash benefits received is 961,510.
Yeah. She is the exception to the rule, Mr. President, because in the first place, her age is 83. Now, the average age in the actuarial of SSS or in our PSA, and that's how we compute the actuarials to begin with, is number one, what is the average age that a woman will die in the Philippines? Based on PSA.
Actually, I'm being told that this is really a good example because they got 25 years of extra for survivorship.
Yeah. But that's only one of side issue yan, Mr. President. Ulitin ko lang, ha? What is the average age today that a female will die in the Philippines? That's how you compute the actuarials, eh?
77 yung actual namin.
Ang actual ng SSS is 77. years.
Okay? Sa SSS.
SSS.
Okay, but in the Philippine context, PSA is, what is the age?
Huh? I'm going to have to get the figure. From,
Babae,
what is the average
70?
weight actual? For
72 if I'm not mistaken.
72.
Yeah.
72.
Pag lalaki naman, ano ang average age?
Mas mababa. 60... No, get the data. It says 66.
66. So the average Filipino, 68, 69, 50-50. Lalaki, babae, more or less.
No, mas mataas ang babae, Your Honor.
51, 49.
Yes.
Yeah, by 1%. So 69, lagay na natin. 70. The average Filipino will live up to 70.
Yes, Your Honor.
So anything above that is an outlier. Frankly speaking, outlier. Like this case, 83.
Yes.
In effect, in the actuarial, you paid 13 years.
Dagdag yun sa kanya.
13 years
Yes.
more. Okay? Now, so that's it, no? Now.
May-
Okay. Now,
May survivorship yan po, ha?
correct.
Ah.
Correct. But you know, you keep on they keep on mentioning survivorship, and I know that's in the charter. Of the 2 million, ilan ba yung survivorship?
Ilan? Ha? 800?
800,000.
800,000, Your Honor.
So 40%.
40%, yes.
Okay, 40%. Okay, now. Pero, may ano rin yan, di ba? Pag nag-asawa ulit, wala na yan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Pero siyempre, at 80, hindi ka na mag-asawa ulit, di ba?
But there is another case, Your Honor. This was 63 years old, Jose Reyes,
Yeah.
and he was a warehouse man.
Yeah.
Total amount of contribution is 303,297,
Yes.
and the total cash benefits received is 695,000.
Yeah.
Wala pang maternity yan.
On its face, akala mo malaki yan. Pero kung 30 years nagbabayad yan, and if I invest, what is the actual annual rate of return? Huh? If I were to,
The annual rate of return,
the actual, if you take a look at it, I'll give an example, Mr. President. Because we did our computations. Depende yan kung ilang taon ka nagbigay eh. Ha? So,
Remember,
off
since-
face, mukhang malaki yan.
since 1974, remember yan?
Okay, so 74. So nagbayad siya ng 303,000, but if you take a look at inflation, so on and so forth, so ngayon, kala mo malaki yung 696. Pero if you look at the annual rate of return na binabalik, I tell you there's a big problem.
You're probably right.
Okay, now,
If you look at the inflation figures.
if
But
you take a
nonetheless,
look- yes,
it's still substantial enough even for present inflationary standards. Your Honor.
okay, now, I'll put it this way, Mr. President, and that's why I think there is something wrong. There is something wrong fundamentally with our pension system and with our defined benefit payment system. Okay, now, let me point this out, Mr. President. In the first place, isn't it that we have a, what do you call that, a subsidized pension system?
Yes, Your Honor. Everybody subsidizes one another practically.
Okay. Therefore, yung nagbabayad ng monthly salary credit na 16,000 is the highest in SSS. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay? Sa gobyerno, anong salary grade yung 16,000?
I'm not too familiar with the civil service.
8? If I'm not mistaken, 8? Yung sweldo ba ng...
8, Your Honor.
Yung sweldo 16,000, hindi ba parang... I think my driver gets that amount, if not a little more.
I think our drivers get a little more.
Correct, right? Okay. And our drivers under that system are the ones subsidizing everyone below.
Well, that is the nature of the beast, Your Honor.
Oh,
Everybody,
okay.
it's just like bayanihan. Everybody
Okay.
carries a house.
Yeah. Okay, so it is the driver that carries the house in this case.
Not necessarily.
Yes, because no one pays beyond the salary monthly credit of 16,000.
Well, the logic is there, but certainly I'm not ready to concede that it's only the drivers that carry the load.
Ulitin ko lang.
They
Ulitin.
probably carry a little bit more of the load than the ordinary.
Okay, first let's say it this way. The monthly salary credit is in between 1,000 and 16,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay? So, if you contribute 16,000, you're subsidizing, and if you're contributing 15,000, 14,000, 13,000, you're subsidizing everyone below you.
Well, Your Honor, may I put it another way, in Japan today, they have an inverted pyramid. The young are supposed to be, in SSS here, are supposed to be subsidizing the old one.
Yes.
But in Japan, because they don't make any babies anymore,
Yes.
the pyramid is now inverted.
It's
They
inverted.
really are worried because
I know.
they are now going to have the young people cannot subsidize the older generation.
Yes, and that's why I'm against, during our reproductive health debates, I've always been against, not reproductive health, but state-sponsored population control.
Use erecto, Your Honor.
Magpadami tayo, Mr. President.
Padami tayo. Your Honor,
Okay.
the cross-subsidy principle,
Yes,
say it this way, the rich subsidizes the poor.
I agree with
The
that, but
healthy
in this
subsidizes
case,
the weak.
correct, I agree with that, and
The
I have no
young
problem with
subsidizes
that.
the old.
Yes, I have no problem with that. All I'm saying is that the structure of the SSS is such, unlike the GSIS, 300,000, ang monthly salary credit on top. Sweldo ng Pangulo yun eh.
Yes.
Diba? Okay. Dito naman, 16,000, katumbas ng driver, he is the one paying the highest rate. He's subsidizing everyone below him.
By a few percentage points, perhaps, Your Honor.
Yeah. But no one
Hindi
again...
naman mabigat, hindi naman ganun kabigat, pero
let me explain to you now. Let's go now to the computation, Mr.
Yes,
President.
Your Honor.
Okay. I have noticed
ano yan?
that the bigger you pay, the longer you pay, the less you get back in return.
And that would appear to be in whatever statistics have been presented, Your Honor.
That is correct. It is
Your
so.
Honor. And I agree with you on that one.
Okay. Okay. And therefore, shouldn't we reform the SSS to address these issues?
We can, but the reformation will obviously intrude into the cross-subsidy system because without them, the cross-subsidy system will not be as effective as it should.
No, I don't think so, Mr.
Because
President.
ilan lang yung 16,000 na...
Because all the 16, hindi ilan yun. Majority na nagbabayad sa SSS, nandun na sa 16,000. Dahil yung sweldo tumataas eh.
16,000. The majority is
million.
16,000, yes, Your Honor.
Majority. I think that is the mean.
26% of the paying is in the
It's
16,000
in the
bracket.
16,000.
26%.
Yeah. Isn't it the mean? Most of the yung nagbabayad na sa 16,000? Huh?
Hindi raw.
Mode. It's the mode. Okay. Now, having said that, Mr. President, okay, let me give you, for example, no? The gentleman agreed. Saan ka naman nakakita ng sitwasyon? The more I pay, the longer I pay, the less I get back in return. Shouldn't we address that, Mr. President?
Well, that is precisely why I define the cross-subsidy principle, Your Honor. The
So, yeah.
the longer person who contributes will have to subsidize those who will die
Siguro,
earlier, Your Honor.
That's precisely
kung
why-
Hindi magagawa eh. Hindi mag-work eh.
no, I think it can if you had a different system. And couldn't that be part of the explanation also why mababang efficiency ng SSS? Because it would appear to be totally unfair. Think about it. The more I pay, the longer I pay, the less I get back. Parang may sobrang unfair naman yan.
Yeah,
And then, the maximum is sweldo ng driver.
We are conscientized, Your Honor. This distortion,
There seems to be a
there's a
big
distortion indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, in returns, the distortion in returns is caused by the minimum pension of 2,200 for 10 years
Correct. That's
and
part of it.
3,400 in 20 years.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
The
So
distortion
it
is
is
caused
the
also by
entire-
40%
Yeah.
minimum
Yeah.
replacement ratio.
Correct. So, okay. You know, kami, we computed it eh. If I paid for 25 years, I only get back a rate of return of 3.38%. If I only paid 10 years at the lowest rate, 1,000, I get back 30%. So if I were a self-employed, I'll know how to game the system based on the data that we have. And that's probably one of the reasons why very inefficient ang SSS, because it doesn't make sense. You could game the system in effect, di ba? And then, we have many kinds of pensions, incidentally. Aside from SSS, in the GAA, we have pensions for senior citizens who didn't contribute anything. So that's where I think the subsidy should come in.
Your Honor, we're all victims of the past law, and I'm glad that the gentleman from Batangas is raising these points. It doesn't mean that we cannot increase it. So we can increase it, Your Honor.
Yeah. No, all I'm saying is that
Because that is by
yes,
previous law,
Yes.
made in 1957.
correct. And that's why I'm saying that aside from the monthly salary credit, there seems to be something fundamentally wrong with the equation with regard to the benefit, what do you call it? Benefit, defined benefits. Isn't the SSS a defined benefit system? It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Defined benefit.
So, dinagay sa batas yung equation kung paano mo babayaran.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Right? Okay? And it has nothing to do with merit.
It has nothing to do with the reality of the situation.
Oo. It has nothing to do with merit. Hindi ba dapat ang pension system, the more I put back, the longer I put back, the more I get in return?
That is a different principle that is more seen in the Provident Fund. But this is not the Provident Fund, Mr.
No, I
President.
understand. I'm talking about fairness lang, Mr. President.
Okay.
I'm just talking about
I will join you then.
yes, it is fairer. It sounds correct.
Yes.
The more I put back, the longer I put back, the more I get back in return.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Rather than the situation today, the more I put back, the longer I put back, the more lugi.
Yes, that's a fact.
In fact, below inflation rate. And because of that, many hindi magko-contribute in the system how it works today. I can pay at 1,000 lang for 8.5 years or 7.5 years. And then I pay 16,000 monthly salary credit for 36 months. Ang laki ng kikitain ko. Isn't that correct?
I already said that.
It's correct. Diba? There's
We
something
can
wrong.
remove the distortion in this law now, Your Honor,
Yes. Yeah.
by
But my appreciation...
increasing the minimum salary credit from 1,000 to 8,500.
salary credit, if we don't touch the equation on the benefit payment, ganun pa rin ang mangyayari. Okay? I could put in the law, we could design a situation wherein it's fairer. The more I put in, the longer I put in, the more I get back in return.
I will not object to that.
Yeah. And then you can charge a fee for the operations of the SSS, and you can charge a fee to pay for the
Yes.
smaller guys. That can be done.
Unfortunately, the philosophy that we have with the SSS salary system right now is the cross-subsidy principle.
Correct.
That's why if the Senate is willing to go by the principle of the more and longer I pay, the more I should get. That is the system in another regime called the Provident Fund.
Correct.
Defined contribution.
Correct.
Defined
Defined contribution from a vis-a-vis a
Walang subsidy
defined...
yan. Walang subsidy yan, Your Honor.
So, yun. But I could still design a subsidy for that.
In fact, the SSS has that right now.
Yeah.
They have a Provident Fund
Yeah.
where any extra above your...
Oh, pero-
basta wag lang 100,000, they will cover.
I'm familiar with that, Mr. President.
Yes, I know. But
All I'm saying is that, Mr. President, there is something structurally flawed in the system.
yes,
Okay? And I'm just proposing that we could take a look at other models, and I'm sure the gentleman agrees that the fairer system is a provident fund, and you could still do a cross-subsidy in a provident fund, if that is our objective, Mr. President. That's all I'm saying, Mr. President, to make the system fairer. No?
Well, Your Honor, Senator Dillon had a proposal, and I'll read it. We parsed it, and we came out with this proposal to establish a provident fund, and we're calling it provident fund na, for the members, which will consist of voluntary, wala na yung voluntary, magiging contributors, contributions, magiging mandatory na, of employers and or employees, self-employed and voluntary members, and their earnings for the payment to such members or their beneficiaries or of the benefits provided for under this Act, subject to such rules and regulations that we...
Isn't it correct that maybe the proper way of doing it, rather than having another pension fund lang na voluntary or mandated, whatever it is, because the problem right now is there is a contract.
Yes.
Okay? Why not do a reform na halimbawa, all those in the workforce now contributing to SSS, o sige, itong defined benefit system,
Yeah.
ang modelo. But then you could have a cut-off period. Let's say by the year 2020 or whatever that year is. All new entrances in the workforce and all new start, eto na ngayon yung bago. Provident Fund. I mean,
You know, Your Honor, when I was in Subic,
yeah.
I tried to establish this sort of regime. There's enforced contribution of a higher rate upon the lower employees and a higher rate insofar as the employers, so that the fund grows and grows, and they're now able to get a lot from the fund when the time comes. Either they borrow money from the fund, or they retire with it, or they get more in terms of benefits. Kung anong pinasok mo, dapat makuha mo mas malaki. Yun ang sinasabi niya eh.
Yun ang sinasabi natin. Yun ang
natin,
pinag-uusapan natin ngayon.
Which,
di ba?
and like I said, I agree with you. Except that in the previous SSS law authored by, I think, Senator Siling Fernand, the former Chief Justice, I was with their daughter today, and I was telling her, yung pala tatay mo ang gumawa nitong SSS law. And I said, this amendment, this regime, would appear to Senator Recto as a distortion.
I think maybe during that time,
Pwede.
yung batas na yan.
Ngayon,
Now,
depende na.
iba na.
Yes.
The world is different now. You have mutual funds, you have ETFs, there are many.
That's
like,
correct.
for example, one of the best systems, I suppose, is like in the U.S., you have the 401k.
Yes, Your Honor. So long as we are able to explain this to the employers and to the employees. Because right now, pag nagtaas yan, umaagal na sila eh.
Yeah. Now, if it is a provident fund,
Which is what is happening in Singapore.
yes, if it is a provident fund, walang lugi ang gobyerno rin.
Tama.
Okay? In effect.
Kung i-invest na yung pera sa tama.
Yeah. And, I laud the efforts of the gentleman also that in the investment side, he's liberalizing the ability of the SSS to invest. I think that is one of the keys as well. Aside from the structural issues, if we can address that, then on the investment side, although I don't think that we should not have any rules in place and leave it to the board.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay? I'm in favor of the gentleman na move it to a little more, you could say risky a bit. Total, sovereign wealth fund naman to eh. It need not be totally conservative. You could be a little more aggressive because these are long-term funds. And it should benefit the country.
There's a saying, Your Honor, it isn't good unless it hurts. And when it comes back to you, you will be happier when you do what has to be done.
And in effect, for every individual here, you're actually looking at 25 years. You're expecting them to work for 25 years. Is that correct?
About 40 years, Your Honor.
Can you imagine? More so. At least 25 to 40. Can you imagine more so?
Diba yan?
So, then the investment portfolio should have that long-term period
Yes.
as well, to a certain degree.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right? Okay, now, if this is 500 billion, would the gentleman know how much the GSIS is?
1.2 trillion.
And the GSIS is only for 3 million government employees,
Yes, and this one is the entire country.
for all the private sector, but because of the inefficiency, and because there's a structural problem in place. Huh? Now, having said that, kung 1.3 trillion ang GSIS at 500 billion ang SSS, that's 1.8 trillion that we have that we can invest part of it to building the infrastructure of our country. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Remember that also that the contribution rate of GSIS is 21%.
I understand.
Walang kunya, wala silang baki, no?
At saka
It's a captured market.
It's a captured market.
Captured
Correct.
market,
Kasi
eh.
gobyerno, DBM na magbabayad.
Well, you and
nun.
I am sure, the gentleman and I am sure,
Yeah,
we
understand.
agree.
All I'm
We
saying is
understand
that, just for the record, you have 1.8 trillion. A large percentage of that you can use to leverage to build infrastructure in the country. Partner with private sector for PPP. Halimbawa.
You know, Your Honor, I have a...
Because in many jurisdictions abroad, sovereign wealth funds, such as this, pension funds, own the infrastructure, many good investments, infrastructure. Let's say Singapore, they own the telecom. In fact, part of Globe is owned by Singapore pension funds.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so on and so forth. So tayo naman, bakit hindi natin gamitin yan for that purpose?
Because hindi po ako ginagawa, maaray na yung tao. Pero kung tunay ang Pangulo, tunay ang tayong lahat, at sabihin natin, kailangan natin gawin yan, kung gusto natin umunlad, katulad nga na nangyari dyan sa BAT, nagkaroon na maraming pera ang gobyerno, pero ngayon, sumobra na mata, lumampas sa buwan yung train, no? Yun ang problema ngayon.
Yeah, but remember, we can put that in the committee report. In fact, the gentleman supported my proposal and included it already here.
Yes, yes.
To a certain degree. Although, wala pa tayong percentages sa pinag-uusapan dito. Halimbawa, I'll give you an example. Why can't SSS, GSIS own part of our airport?
That is a suggestion.
Or halimbawa, yung toll roads natin.
Yes, that is a
Can you
suggestion.
imagine, malaking kinikita yan. Bakit lahat ng negosyanteng ito doon nag-i-invest? Kasi kumikita. So why can't we use our pension funds to invest in this?
That is a proposal, Your Honor.
And at the same time, every laborer or private sector worker or government employee, knowing dadaan siya sa toll road, mabigat yung toll, pero alam niya, babalik sa kanya sa pension niya pagdating ng panahon.
You know, Your Honor, I've served as an executive for a long time. I charged garbage fees. Initially, there was a complaint. But when they saw it was being collected, they were very happy. In fact, they saw new trucks, they saw... And Your Honor, in all these instances...
In my case, I'm not talking about increasing it. I'm just talking about the investment side.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're there. But you see, ako, ang feeling ko, what you put in is what you get back.
Yeah, correct.
And if you put in
Peanuts.
you get monkeys. Sabi nga, that's actually the saying. You don't get anything much, no?
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with the gentleman from Batangas.
Okay, so finally, just for the record, no? Alam mo, parang marketing din yan. Ha? Ilang tulad na lang, may Jollibee na naman. So ito naman, 100 araw na lang, may bagong toll road na naman. Made by Filipinos, financed by Filipinos, for our pensioners. Parang ganon. Ha? So, imbes na kung saan natin inalagay yung pera.
You know, Your Honor, if you look at the bill, I put in my philosophy of work, save, invest, prosper.
Correct.
I tell that everywhere. I give
Now,
money. Next week, I'll be going to Biliran. We'll give them 10,000 or 8,000. In Marawi, we gave 10,000. Every week, halos.
Okay.
Yung
So,
mga tamasan ng And I always say, work, save, invest, prosper. Yung isabong.
Okay, correct.
Lagay niyo sa negosyo.
Correct. So halimbawa, itong SSS, so you roughly have about 450 to 500 billion in investable funds. Magkano ang return ngayon nila?
According to my staff, and she's not an actuary, but she confirmed it from the actual actuary, it's 6%, Your Honor.
6%. Okay, so 6%.
Mga taga San Beda, mahilig magpayabang sa akin eh. Pero it's okay lang ho. Presidente
Kung
naman taga
tamang
San Beda.
inflation rate na 6.4, di lugi. Okay. Okay.
Lugi,
Okay
lugi.
ang puntos
Eh,
ko.
taga San Beda kaya lugi.
Okay, now, pagka yung mga the likes of, let's say, Manny Villar's company, yung Vista Land and the like,
Oy, number
from
2
1
sila
year,
pinakamayaman.
from 1.5 billion to $5 billion. Huh? Or let's say, Ayala, magkano kinita? San Miguel, magkano kinita? So on and so forth.
Yes.
Huh? So
Why
that-
should they be the only ones rich?
Correct.
Why
Why
cannot
not our
the Philippine-
pensioners if we invest this money properly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So at the appropriate time, we will also make certain amendments on this particular provision. At the meantime, if I may request the gentleman, because we'll be hosting the...
I know, and I
Chinese-
appreciate that they've given us
Thank you.
time. Well, even though this has been going on for a long time, the longer it gets as old wine, it gets better, it gets sweeter.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And
Well,
that's
I-
coming from an enlightened senator, Your Honor.
Thank
I
you
don't
very
mind the interpretation so long as it benefits the people.
And remember, I've learned also from the sponsor of this measure, being an administrator, an executive, in many fields of government, in debates, in sponsorships, in hearings, in the Senate. So, and is one of the brightest Ateneans here in the Senate. If not the brightest Atenean, are you the only Atenean?
There are quite a few of us here, Your Honor, but in the kingdom
I
of the blind,
stand-
sometimes even the one-eyed man is king.
Yeah. I stand that you're the brightest Atenean in the Senate. So I look forward to working with you in this measure. I'm working also with the SSS people to
Yes, Your
find a
Honor.
solution so that we don't have to prolong the debates as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
And between you and me and all those interested, I'm sure we can come out with amendments to have a better SSS pension reform system.
So I would like the gentleman to give me the guidance because I'm enjoying the debate, quite frankly. I mean, it's a SSS that has a timeline.
Yeah.
They've been coming in and out here, and
Anyway, we
sa akin, so long as it improves the bill, it's fine with me.
sure.
I can stay here.
I
But-
think our target should be, ako siguro maybe just one more interpolation if at all. Ha? I'll wait lang for the records of the SSS. I think our target is that we should pass the measure before the break.
Before the break,
Yeah, that should
Pass.
be fair enough. Pass.
by the bicameral also, by the bicameral. By cam.
At least in the Senate. I don't know
No,
about
we
the
have
Senate.
to pass this before the break. Para naman,
I've not seen the House version of the measure, Mr. President.
I'm sure they will adopt our measure.
But I'm sure it's not going to be, the House always adopts our measure. and
That's
the
right,
SSS.
that's right, Your Honor.
Okay, so,
In other words, they're the ones contributing low, but they also get bigger contributions than us. We always work harder, but they get bigger, benefits than us.
I totally agree with the chairman, the sponsor of the committee report. So, again, thank you very much. For
Thank you, Your Honor.
allowing
It's
us
a
questions.
very swell interpretation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. We can clearly see the rivalry of Ateneo and LaSalle here on the floor.
Put the productive use.
Majority Leader, that's here as a question.
Yes, sir.
Listening to the two illustrious gentlemen talk about their schools, I was just curious, no? Why is the Philippine Military Academy not mentioned in this
Mr.
conversations?
President, Majority Leader, if I may,
Yes.
I think the
yes.
people in the PMA should rethink now the position of proclamation of the taking away the amnesty to all former rebels, Mr. President. Mostly coming from the PMA.
Thank you. Thank you to the
Support the
Senate
amnesty,
President.
basta galing sa PMA.
Uy. Anyway, Mr.
Talking
President.
about tax amnesty, not the...
Tax amnesty pala, not amnesty on rebellion charges. But Mr. President, levity aside, we'd like to suspend, Mr. President, we'd like to suspend consideration on Senate Bill number 1753. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move to proceed with the Senate President's designation of the conferees on the part of the Senate and the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing votes on House Bill number 7449. This is the supplemental budget to the DOH.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senators Legarda as chairman, Senator J.V. Ejercito, Senator Gordon, and Senator Drilon on the part of the minority are designated.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, we have no other matters to tackle today. There's a very important dinner that will be hosted later by Senator Recto for our guests from China. We move to adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, September 11, 2018. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, September 11, 2018.